Hello everyone, Storm here, and today we'll be continuing What If Goku Never Hit His Head. This is part 7, and the last part, part 6, covered the events of the future timeline. Speaking of, I'll only be recapping the last part briefly, so if you need to catch up on the series, you can do so by clicking the link in the description or comments section. Anyway, Raditz and Gohan were the only survivors of the androids, and so they trained Goten, Trunks, and Cella, who was Bardock and Gine's daughter. Eventually, Gohan died and Raditz lost his arm, leading to him losing it and eventually fighting to his death to make up for his failures. 3 years later, a much stronger Trunks headed back to the past to give Goku the heart medicine. So yeah, that's the recap. Besides that, I just want to say that if you like this video, you can subscribe to see the series continue. And as always, be sure to join my Discord and follow me on Twitter. Links in the description. Future Trunks arrives in the past and charges up to his full power in order to bring Kakarot to him. This works, and everyone heads his way, intrigued by the high power. Trunks would tell Kakarot that he has important information, but first he needs to test his strength. The Saiyan agrees to this, and when he sees Trunks go Super Saiyan, he is surprised. He then follows by doing the same, and the two begin to spar. However, upon seeing Kakarot's strength, Trunks holds back a ton. He had been told that Kakarot was this legendary warrior who would have saved them all if he survived. But here, he seemed almost nothing to Trunks. Remember that this version of the character is far stronger than the original. This is due to him starting off his training early, as well as having two mentors in Raditz and Gohan, and during all of his training, he had two training partners, Goten and Cella, to spar with, who were his rivals. This stands opposed to the original Trunks, who once his mentor died, only trained alone, and besides, he only started his training when he was like 16 or 13, something like that. So it makes sense that Trunks should be able to beat Kakarot quite easily. Trunks decided to call off the sparring and give Kakarot the medicine, informing him of the androids. He then heads back to the future, hoping that it all works out. Piccolo would then relay the information to everyone else as he had heard it, and they would decide on training groups. Since the Earthlings felt they were a bit outmatched, they didn't want to step into the Saiyan training. Because of this, they would instead be urged to at least train together by Bardock, Raditz, Piccolo, and Kakarot. Meanwhile, they would all train together and would also include Gohan for the first time. But before that, he would go through Roshi's training. Once he's completed that, he would climb Korin's tower, drink the Ultra Divine Water, and then go to the lookout. There, he would be trained by Mr. Popo until he surpassed him as well. Gohan grew far faster than Kakarot did originally, and because of this, he was able to join in on the real training pretty quickly. Once the training was complete, Gohan would be a lot weaker than in canon, but he was still far stronger than when he started. Gine had also been doing some training with Popo to be able to defend herself a little bit better. Going back to the Earthlings, while Tenshinhan was the strongest, Yamcha was able to surpass him using the Kaioken that he had learned from King Kai. The two kinda left Krillin and Chaozu in the dust, but they're still very strong in their own right. As for the rest of our crew, Raditz and Bardock both learned Super Saiyan from Kakarot, and Piccolo sparring with such strong people led to his gains increasing as well. Overall, he was far stronger than in canon, while Kakarot was only a bit stronger than himself. He was held back by Bardock and Gohan, but they didn't hinder him too much. Now that the 3 years of training are done, the crew would arrive in the city in order to find the androids. The only one who wasn't there was Gohan, since he didn't meet the level of strength they needed. The much stronger Chaozu would be there though. They split up to search, staying in pairs. Yamcha and Krillin end up being the ones who find the two androids, and Krillin gets grabbed by 20. Yamcha then takes the initiative using the Kaioken to chop the android's arm off. This burst of energy led the others to them, and now they all left to go into the wasteland. There, Kakarot would face off against 19, but unfortunately would succumb to the heart virus. He had forgotten to take it due to focusing on Bardock and Gohan catching up since they were so far behind in power. This would lead to Krillin taking him home and both Bardock and Raditz going Super Saiyan to take on the two androids, leading to 19 being killed by Raditz. However, before Bardock lands the finishing blow, Android 20 escapes by blinding everyone. He heads to his lab, where he releases 17 and 18, who kill him and release 16. Just after that, Vegeta would show up and he would show off his Super Saiyan to fight Android 18. Meanwhile, 3 energies approached the area. These 3 energies were future Goten, Trunks, and Cella. They arrive, explaining to Piccolo and the others that they had killed their own androids and came back to make sure everything went well. The reason they managed to kill the androids is because when Trunks sensed how much Kakarot was weaker than him, this gave him a large confidence boost, and so he told Goten and Cella that if they're stronger than someone like Kakarot, they must not be too far off from the androids. That, combined with the fact that they saw that the changing of timelines didn't really do anything since it affected a different timeline, they decided to train intensely, and eventually all 3 of them together were able to win. After all that exposition is dumped, Vegeta gets beaten by 18. This brings Goten, Trunks, and Cella to go to Super Saiyan and take on the 3 androids. Goten took 16, Trunks took 17, and Cella took 18. The first and last matchups would be a bit difficult, but Trunks vs 17 would be almost easy. The future warrior killed the android and then went to help Cella. With both of them together, they easily killed the much stronger 18 and united with Goten to kill 16. So yeah, there goes the androids. And once again, if you think I'm overpowering them, remember that their training is far superior than in canon, and then add another 3 years of sparring with each other on top of that. So now with the androids wiped out, the crew all had a talk with the future warriors, learning of their heritage. Future Trunks would have a nice little moment where he shakes Bardock's hand and thanks him for Cella. Bardock tells him that he didn't really have a say in the future version of his daughter, but he seemed fit enough for her. After all, he did just help save 2 different timelines, so yeah, he's kind of a hero. Goten would also have a fun little moment with Raditz, reminding him not to give up. He also talks to his younger self and Gohan. He wished he could have talked to his father, but currently he was recovering with the heart medicine. He promised he'd stop by again as soon as he could, but now Cella and Trunks wanted to return home to focus on fixing their timeline. They then left, leaving our heroes behind. Once Kakarot recovered, he decided that they needed to be more ready for future threats. Piccolo suggested the time chamber, and Kakarot agreed. He and Piccolo would then enter, with Bardock and Raditz going next. Kakarot was able to learn the Super Saiyan grades, though grade 4 was a bit harder to get since he wasn't training with the Saiyan, who was also ascending. Luckily, they spent the full 24 hours this time, so it made up for it by a bit. Bardock and Raditz were able to unlock grades 2 and 3, and realized the flaws with them, pushing to get grade 4 outside the chamber. Kakarot then offered Vegeta a turn, since he knew he would want to keep up with them. Vegeta agreed and trained on his own, achieving grade 2 and 3, but recognizing the faults of the latter. Everyone then left, deciding that they'd see each other again at some point. But what they didn't know was that there was something lurking in the shadows. Cell. Now you may be wondering how Cell got here, and that is a good question. After all, he only showed up after killing Trunks in an alternate timeline for trying to go to the past to tell everyone he'd killed the androids. But since he already did that, that couldn't happen. But remember what I said about future Goten wanting to come back? Yes, once the fuel had been recharged, Goten decided to return on his own to the past, to enjoy a day or so with his family, as he had promised. But what that led to was Cell sneaking up on him and killing him. He then stole the time machine before anyone else could get to him, going back in time. And now he was fully grown once more. He could now finally absorb the androids. First, he would increase his power by absorbing cities of people. Luckily for him, Piccolo was in the time chamber, so we wouldn't be able to find him. This led to Cell being found instead by Yamcha, although a bit later than Piccolo originally. Cell was now stronger now that he had absorbed more people. Yamcha would make a swift attack, but he would get his arm absorbed by the bio-android. Cell would reveal his backstory and his plan to absorb the androids to become perfect. After hearing this, Yamcha used the Kaioken to break out of his lock, telling him that he was now out of luck. The androids had already been dealt with. Cell was shocked by this news, and Yamcha now planned to finish him off with a Kaioken times 20 Kamehameha. Cell screamed out as he was completely atomized. Yamcha laughed in triumph, congratulating himself as this was the first time he's caught a dub in quite a while. He then left to tell the others about this, and they told him that he did a good job. But what they didn't know was that Cell had completely faked his death. Some of his cells had survived the blast. He decided that because he couldn't reach perfection through the androids, and he nearly died trying to absorb cities, he should just stay hidden. Yamcha, out of all people, almost killed him, and if the androids were dead, the rest of them must be incredibly strong. Plus, with Piccolo and Kakarot's recent exit of the time chamber showing their power to be insane, Cell knows he won't be a match. At least not yet. The bio-android will hide in the shadows, training himself to one day make his return and kill everyone. But that's where we're going to have to leave this part off. So how did you like the events of this story? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Cell in this timeline, and don't worry, he isn't going to be crazy overpowered since he doesn't have any of Frieza's DNA. This is because Frieza died on Namek and never came to Earth, and neither did King Cold, so that's out of the picture too. So while Cell will definitely be powerful, he's not going to be getting golden or anything like that. It's not going to be too overpowered. But anyway, please be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed. But as always, tell me if you liked this part, tell me what you think will happen next, comment your requests for future videos, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.